Good evening. If you desire to speak tonight, please complete a request to speak form and give it to the city clerk. Speakers will be called upon at the appropriate time. At this time, I will convene the City Council, and the City Council is a Housing Successor Agency meeting for September 11, 2018, City of Grand Terrace. If you would please join us. We have an invocation that will be given by Dr. Mustafa Kuko. Our Pledge of Allegiance will be led by our City Attorney, Richard Adams. So please stand for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Our Lord, as we stand humbly in front of you this evening, we pray you to accept us as the devout servants of yours, as good children of yours, as good and sincere worshippers of yours, as an obedient dependent of yours. And as we put this demand to you, we earnestly put another demand, that you shower down your blessings, your grace, your mercies, your forgiveness, your pardon on very lovely brothers and sisters who lost their lives this day 17 years ago in New York. May you accept them and have them enjoy the dwelling in the heights of heaven with your pleasures and your satisfaction. Our Lord, we ask you, and we thank you also, that you made this meeting tonight materialize, and we ask you to make it a very productive one. Oh Lord, we thank you for the food that we eat and drink. We thank you for the air that we breathe, and we ask you for the amenities of life that you have bestowed upon us. And we ask you for the lease of life that you have given us. Oh Lord, we ask you to protect us from the raging fires that destroy our woodlands, our farms, our pastures, our dwellings, and our businesses. And also, we equally seek your protection against the hurricanes and the storms that are wreaking damage on the Atlantic seaboard. Our Lord, also, we seek your help and protection against any hardship in life, against any anxiety, worry, sadness, depression, and all the negativity that comes with them. Our Lord, we pray to you to have our children, the children of this community of Grand Rapids, and the youth here in Grand Rapids, to have them enjoy peace and tranquility as their schools, as their homes, and as their streets. And you guide them to the right path and help them to follow it. And you show them the wrong path and help them to stay away from it. Our Lord, we pray to you to grant the mayor of this city all the success in her endeavors, and also the member of the city council, the staff, the employees, all of them, you give them the energy, the support, and the perseverance to carry their noble job in serving this great community of Grand Rapids. And we pray to you, and to put that also in their accounts of good deeds. And we pray to you to make this great city of Grand Terrace, to make it a city, a bastion of peace, tranquility, growth, prosperity, and opportunity. And we finally pray to you to shower your blessings, your satisfaction, your grace, your kindness, and your compassion on everyone sitting here this evening, and on those who couldn't make it this evening. Amen, amen, amen. Thank you.
If you'll place your right hand over your heart and repeat the pledge with me, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Dr. Kuko. Thank you, Mr. Adams. Madam City Clerk, may we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Henderson,
Present.
Councilmember Hussey,
Present.
Councilmember Wilson,
I'm here.
Mayor Pro Tem Robles,
Present.
Mayor McNabo.
Present.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. We have a special presentation tonight, and it is from our city clerk, Deborah Thomas. She will be talking to us about the Laserfish Document Management Imaging System. Madam City Clerk.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council. Staff wanted to provide you with an update on the Laserfish Avante electronic content management system that we had put into place. On September 12, 2017, staff brought to the City Council 3 responses to its RFP for an electronic content management system. The city's intent was to procure and implement a document management system which provides electronically stored information to users in the city organization and to the community via web access. The implementation of the system increases transparency to the public and provides opportunity for public to easily access public records. The City Council awarded the contract to Complete Paperless Solutions, which provided the city with Laserfish Avante electronic content management system. Staff has individual access through their desktops, and the public will have access through the city clerk's webpage on the website as follows. In this area here where the little red circle is, we're going to have a quick link placed there in the next couple of days where members of the public, staff, and even members of council can actually click on that link, and it will take you to this page here. This page is going to be the main page where we will store all of the documents that we have scanned or just dragged and dropped and imported into this particular area. Now on the right-hand side here, most of that will not be available for people to use because that's mostly for staff in the scanning process. But over here to your left are the categories for all the departments, and then of course we're just right here at the city Grand Terrace. That is where you're seeing this listing here. So as you click on, say for instance, the city clerk, and an individual who wants to search for, say, an agreement would just go ahead and click to the left on the city clerk page, and they want to find an agreement. So they know to search here where it says contracts and agreements because it's showing in the center there. They would double click on that, and they know that the agreement that they're looking for is in 2018. So they would double click on the 2018, and they want to go ahead and open up that Omnitrans passenger amenity agreement. When they double click on that, they're going to see it. All of the individual pages are to the left, and you can just scroll through those and read it online. Or you can go up here where I've circled up in the red to download it into a PDF format where you can save it to your own desktop. Once you click on that, you're going to want to select that download button there. And in the center of the page here, you can select all pages or just even partial pages if you'd like. Then you'll go ahead and hit download. And when you look down here at the bottom left-hand corner, that's where the PDF is. You'll double click on your PDF, and it will be there available to store on your computer. If an individual has no idea where to find the record in the system, they're going to go up here to the top where there's a search bar. They'll type in their query. It could be a single term or even a string of terms, whether it be a sentence or just a few different types of words that they want to find all of those particular records that relate to that search term. They will click on the green button there where it's for the search, and Omnitrans has popped up for the agreement, as well as in a few of the minutes that we've prepared, because Omnitrans, when Mayor Pro Tem will happen to attend those meetings, that term is in those minutes. There again, they would just double-click on that, and it pulls up the agreement, and they can review that and go through that same process that I've already described to you, to download those records and have those available to them at, whenever they want to search for it. It's open 24/7. Only those records that are disclosable to the public will be made available through the imaging system on the city's website. The city clerk's office has completed its training on scanning and importing and has begun placing current records into the system. Training is currently available for all staff to begin importing their documents that they're responsible for into the electronic storage format, and the city clerk's office will coordinate that training by department basis starting immediately. Please note, though, that the public records option is always will be available to members of the public, and we will go ahead and process those requests as they continue to come in. That's the end of my update, and any questions you may have, I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. Are there any questions at this time? How far back will you be going in our archives to scan?
We're currently going to start with 2018, just continue to move forward. What we can do, and what I would like to discuss with my office specialist, is to have, we'll take groupings of records and try to then go back a little ways. We obviously, 2017, 16, 15 is not that far behind. So, but any records from 1978 going forward, that would be a larger project on a larger scale that we would probably like to outsource that. But we'll keep everything current going forward and then work our way back a little bit in small groupings.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for the update.
You're welcome.
Our next item is the consent calendar. The consent calendar items are expected to be routine and non-controversial. They will be acted upon by City Council at one time without discussion. Any council member, staff member, or citizen may remove an item from the consent calendar for discussion. Are there any requests to remove items?
Madam Mayor, if I may, the city manager and I are recommending that item number 8 be removed
Okay.
and acted upon separately.
Okay. Did you have
Madam Mayor, we have a request to speak on item number 6.
number 6? Okay.
And I'd like to take 7 off the consent calendar.
Okay. Thank you. All right, I'll entertain a motion for the balance. If somebody would like to do so.
So moved, Madam Mayor.
I second.
All right, there's a motion for approval by Councilmember Henderson, second by Mayor Pro Tem Robles. Please vote.
Motion passes unanimously with council members Henderson, Hussey, and Wilson voting yes, Mayor Pro Tem Robles voting yes, and Mayor McNabo voting yes.
All right, thank you. Item number 6 is the approval of a check register. Mr. Jeremy Rivera would like to speak on that item.
Good evening, everyone. Hope everyone's nice and cool, but really hot out there today and this week. Just one quick thing, it keeps popping up on this on a monthly basis. I asked about it, I believe, last month or the month before. There's a $3,500 expenditure for the website again. This is starting to become a very expensive city website. If someone can explain to me what's going on, I'd deeply appreciate it. I think we're into this website for about 10 grand now. So I don't know if Mr. Duffy has any details he can share with us, but I'm starting to keep a tally and it's getting pretty expensive. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rivera. I know that this was addressed last time this was on the check register. Perhaps it would be good for Mr. Duffy to contact Mr. Rivera and go through the contract that we had for the website.
Absolutely. Mr. Rivera, I am available at any point in time. We'll just drop my card off for you, and I can certainly contact you at your early availability to go over the city's website contract. But would you like me to comment further on?
Please do.
Okay, sure. So the city of Grand Terrace entered into an agreement with Civic Plus to develop our website, and I believe the total amount of that website is $25,000. And so what you're seeing now is the billing for the actual development of the site, and the site is actually scheduled to go live any day. It was supposed to go live yesterday, but we had some .gov issues that we're trying to clear up. But the majority of the work is pretty much done, and there may be a maintenance part of the contract, but that's what the whole process has been all about.
Thank you. Are there any other questions on the check register while we have it on consent? All right. Is there a motion to approve the check register?
So moved, Madam Mayor.
I second that.
All right, motion by Councilmember Henderson, second by Mayor Pro Tem Robles. Please vote.
Motion passes unanimously with council members Henderson, Hussey, and Wilson voting yes, Mayor Pro Tem Robles voting yes, and Mayor McNoba voting yes.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem, item number 7, the future vision for pedestrian-friendly Michigan Street.
Yeah, the concern, I have this being on the consent calendar is because we haven't had any discussion about any possible expenditures from RDA, for example, on Michigan Street improvements or what our strategy would be. And so I wanted to have us discuss that.
Mr. Duffy?
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem is actually correct in terms of there are some future items on the agenda relating to potentially trying to develop some landscaping programs for Michigan. So perhaps, I know we were trying to accomplish the overall goal of notifying the residents about, based on the council's direction, going from that Michigan was no longer going to be widened. So the goal there was to send, the direction from the council was to send a letter out to the residents informing them that, you know, Michigan was no longer going to be a widened street. But what we wanted to do was to also let them know that we would have plans in the future to look at ways to improve, making it a more walkable street. So this letter incorporated both of those concepts. And so, as Mayor Pro Tem indicated, it may be premature to send a letter out at this time, and we may want to hold it until a later date. And I can say that the residents are aware that the Commerce Way project is going through, and that the road will not be widened. So if we want to hold off on the letter, maybe just for another couple of weeks, we can do that, or we can modify the letter to send it out, basically informing them about the Commerce Way project going through, and there will be no more need for Michigan to be widened to a 4-lane road.
I would rather wait than to send a letter out. I don't see us sending a letter out saying it's not going to be widened without addressing some of their other concerns that they had regarding Michigan Street with respect to sidewalks and those types of things. Councilmember Henderson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would ask my colleagues whether or not you feel that it would be appropriate to discuss this item under item number 11, where a number of projects are being submitted to the council for consideration for use of the bond proceeds.
I think that
Mayor Pro Tem.
would be appropriate, but also I think we need to be sensitive to why I'm for sidewalks, and we certainly, at least on one side of the street, and it getting done sooner rather later. I know there is one resident that doesn't want sidewalks on her property. So we need to have the public be able to have their input and proper notice and participate in what we're deciding here.
Councilmember Wilson.
Excuse me, City Manager, do we have a design or a final design for this, for the Commerce Way extension? I know we have a partial design, or at least a preliminary design, but have we completed it all the way through, not only ours, but also through Lewis's?
Not at this point in time, sir. What the council gave us direction for was to move forward with a 90% completion of the design for the area that we are going to be in control of extending Commerce Way, and we have completed that. And so we're now in the process of talking to the property owners to get the easements or the right-of-ways. But The Lewis project has not completed their design portion of the Commerce Way at this point in time.
So rather than stepping on our own mess kit, why don't we just hold off and give them the good news when we have a final design? So that we don't have to worry about maybe taking it back?
Well, I
At a
believe
point.
that, but based upon the CP&A that we have with SBCTA, we have that Commerce Way is fully funded. And that we also removed Michigan off of that CP&A list. So that was how we were going to fund the four-lane, the four-lane extension of Michigan. So that's no longer an option for us unless we have another funding source. So because of our funding sources, we no longer have the option to widen Michigan. And all of our eggs are in the basket of extending Commerce Way, with or without the Lewis project, because we have developer impact fees and we have funding, matching funds from the SBCTA.
Can I have it?
Mayor Pro Tem.
It's just, when I'm having a hard time previous meetings hearing you all at the end.
Okay.
If you speak in the microphone, maybe I want to test if it's our acoustics or if it's not us.
Sure, is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you need me to repeat any of that?
No.
Okay.
No, but it just.
I'm sorry. I thought I was loud enough, but I can certainly be a little louder.
All right, so what would we like to do with this item? Would we like to hold off for now? Or would we like to have another letter that talks about Commerce Way and storm drains? We will be doing the storm drains, right?
Yes, well, one of the things that, as Councilman Henderson talked about in item number 11, is we are going to have to look at Michigan from a complete street design. And so where it's sidewalks, safe routes to school, lighting, storm drains, whether they're bioswales or traditional storm drains. But item number 11 talks about trying to design that to help us qualify for other funding sources.
So a letter that says we're not going to widen Michigan is only half the story, but I understand we don't want to put out there what we're going to do until we have a design. Mayor Pro Tem.
I think we can send a letter out that you're not going to be a four-line highway. And I think it'd be okay to have a discussion in item 11 about RDA expenditures. But we're just having a discussion because we're going to have another meeting where everything's noticed.
Yeah, I would like them to know that they're not being totally forgotten about, though. That there will be improvements considered for Michigan, and they will be noticed at the appropriate time. Councilmember Wilson.
Do we know everything that's going to go on along Michigan between the city border and all the way up to basically to Barton Road? Do we know everything that's going to be constructed in there? Do we have a final situation so far as, we know what we're zoned for, but we don't know for sure what uses are going to get plugged into some of that zoning. I just think it's premature to say, oh, gee, we're not going to have to widen the road, and then because of circulation situations along that area, it might trigger some portion, and then there could be a general misunderstanding. Kind of makes us look like we're not paying attention.
Well, sir, what we do know is that we have a water collection issue on Michigan. So we're going to have to do storm drains. Well, we do know that any new development on Michigan will have to address those storm drain issues. What we do know is that it is has the deficit of sidewalks in the area. And what we do know is that it is limited in circulation. And I believe that our goal is not to allow any development that's going to dramatically increase the volume. And that's the reason why Commerce Way is designed to alleviate that traffic from the area. So we know those things, and because the end point on Main Street is the school, that's going to qualify us for some safe route to school programs. And so and maybe either Sandra or Alan can chime in here from a development standpoint, but it's my understanding that once we talked about Commerce Way being added as the arterial, then our goal is to return Michigan into a regular two-lane street that's a residential neighborhood where it gets standard residential traffic because of the other four-lane arterial on there. We don't know exactly what that's going to look like. That's going to be part of the whole process of trying to sit down and develop what that should look like.
Councilmember Henderson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to make sure that we all understand, council and the community, that staff was directed to notify the property owners of the anticipated development of Commerce Way and the corollary benefits that would be accrued to Michigan. And so I think that was the attempt. If in fact we as a council have some second thoughts, as Mr. Wilson has identified and the Mayor Pro Tem as well, it would be appropriate either to take it up, in my opinion, under item 11 or on a separate day at a time, if the council is supportive of that idea. Thank you.
Right. And it occurs to me that we've had a lot of discussion without opening it up for public comment, so I'm going to do so at this time. Is there anybody who would like to speak on this item?
Good evening, Bobby Forbes, 11850 Burns Avenue, Grand Terrace. I don't know if I'm going to say this correctly, the EQMD has not been done for Lewis, that's not in yet. Will that have an impact on what goes on there, depending upon what comes back in that report? For the Gateway? Maybe not for Lewis, but for Gateway?
The CEQA process, maybe she's talking about CEQA.
The environmental impact report, I don't, something like that? I don't know the verbiage, but the last meeting I went to over here, the lady spoke about that might take a number of months, 6 months or more. It would seem like that might have an effect on what does or doesn't happen. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think that it would have some effect on it, depending upon what they say. And the people in Michigan have been told so many things for so long, I don't think you want to tell them anything that will change. You know, I've been coming to meetings for 30 years, you know, and know who doesn't want sidewalks and know who's willing and knows who wants them, but we need sidewalks there. But it is certainly nice to hear in my ears that it's not going to be what we all thought it would be with the heavy, heavy traffic. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah. This is my first time hearing that tonight, so I'm really glad to hear that. But I would not be sending out anything to them saying what you think is going to happen when you don't know for sure. That's my feeling. Thank you. I would be very disappointed if I got a letter and then you changed your mind.
Thank you, Ms. Forbes. Is there anybody else who'd like to speak on this item? All right, I'll close public comment and I'll bring it back to council and I will address Mr. Duffy.
So, Mayor, what I can say to make it very clear to everyone is that the only way the city was going to be able to widen that road was because we had the project listed on our CP&A. We have now removed that project from the CP&A, so the city has no funding to expand Michigan from a 2-road lane to a 4-road lane. That funding, which is already secured, has been moved toward Commerce Way. And so it's a 60-40 match, and the city has its 40% in development impact fees, and the SBCTA has their 60% that we're charging for now for the design and the expansion of Commerce Way. The Lewis project is a component of the overall specific plan design area. But the funding for Commerce Way is fully funded by SBCTA and the city's development impact fees. So we're not going to have an issue. I mean, the road might be prettier if there's a Lewis project versus a standard road because of, medians and different designs and stuff like that through the requirements of a specific plan. But for funding of the 4-lane highway from where Commerce ends right now to Taylor Street, the council has that funding already locked up and ready to go. There is no funding for an expansion of Michigan from its current state to a 4-lane street. There isn't a design yet to take Michigan in its current state and make it a walkable, pleasant, friendly, pedestrian-friendly street. And that's what the other discussion is going to be about, how we try to design and seek grants and resources.
Are we sending the letter or are we not sending the letter? Councilmember Wilson.
While we may not have funding, and I understand that, and I also understand that there's no design for it, at this point, our general plan reflects Michigan Avenue as a secondary highway or something akin to it. Until we change that general plan, we will be out of sync with the general plan if we bring it down to a residential situation. My understanding is that when you change the general plan, it sends a pretty slick signal to any future developers as well any property owners along that area. So it seems to me that it would be, we've got the cart before the horse here, and I just think that let's follow the procedure.
Is that a motion you're making?
Yes, ma'am.
So the motion is to not send the letter yet.
That's correct.
All right, is there a second?
I second it.
Okay, motion by Councilmember Wilson, second by Councilmember Henderson to hold off on sending the letter. Please vote.
Motion passes with Council Members Henderson, Hussey, and Wilson voting yes, Mayor McNabb voting yes, Mayor Pro Tem Robles votes no.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to item 8, Park and Recreation Advisory Committee appointment. Mr. City Manager, did you want to? Oh, I guess this is a city clerk staff presentation.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council, Deborah Thomas, City Clerk. Before you tonight is a Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee appointment, appointing Jeremy Rivera to a vacant position that was a result of Vice Chair Richard Loader's resignation. On July 25th, 2017, the City Council had approved a resolution to reestablish the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee, which meets the second Thursday of each month at City Hall. The committee is made up of 5 voting members, and the expiration of the terms are staggered on even-numbered years so that all of the terms do not expire at the same time. Currently, the committee has 2 member vacancies, one of which is Vice Chair Richard Loader, as well as Councilmember Wilson's appointee chairman, Jeffrey McConnell, who was appointed to the Planning Commission meeting. Each member of the council appoints a person to the committee. The council approves the appointments by minute order. Committee members meet once per month, and action taken is consistent with the approved bylaws. At this time, staff is recommending that you review the application submitted by Jeremy Rivera and appoint him to fill an unexpired term on the Parks and Rec Advisory Committee, continuing to June 30th, 2020.
Thank you. Are there any questions of staff at this time? Councilmember Hussey.
I have a couple of questions and concerns. When we brought this committee on, my understanding, and I don't see it in here, that each council member, you read it earlier, that is going to pick a person to represent them. My understanding was if that council member leaves, that the committee member was supposed to be vacant, but then I'm reading something different. I guess that's not true.
Well, under organization, the Parks and Rec Committee shall consist of 5 members. All appointments shall be made by minute record of the city council and shall continue in effect until a successor is appointed. Each member of the city council shall appoint 1 member. There will be a chair and a vice chair. And I don't see, but we can research that a little further. I don't see
Well,
where.
that's what I just thought, because we picked the members of the community to represent us on the Parks and Recreation, then I thought once we left, like if I don't run next time, then I leave, it leaves the next council member an opportunity to pick somebody in his or her spot to go ahead and represent them. That's what I was assuming. And, I know we got election coming up and Mr. Wilson's up, and then I know the mayor's election. I'm not saying that they're not going to be reelected, but if they weren't, I would like to give the opportunity to the other council members, if they get elected, to have that opportunity to pick a committee member. That's how my understanding was how this whole thing's working. So like basically, we appointed you and you're with us until we're off or you decide to resign. I mean, and I'm reading it different now.
Councilmember Henderson.
My comments are not with respect to the proposed appointee, but I was a very short-lived Park and Rec committee member. And the way it was explained to me is, as Mr. Hussey is indicating, that the terms of the appointer and the appointee would run consistent with one another. Otherwise, as I indicated earlier in the Planning Commission discussion, you have Park and Rec committee members outliving, so to speak, their appointing authorities. And generally speaking, cities tie the appointments with the terms of the appointing authority. And so if the appointing authority leaves office for any reason, it's considered an automatic resignation of the appointee. In my experience, the new appointing authority oftentimes interviews the now resigned appointee along with others, and in many cases, for institutional knowledge and continuity, that person is appointed, but it's solely up to the new appointing authority. So to have the terms of Park and Rec committee members be inconsistent with the appointing authority just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Thank you.
Madam City Clerk.
I have not been able to locate where the terms do expire with the appointer. However, that would be a decision that council could obviously.
Sounds like it needs to come back for clarification.
I think so.
Okay. Any other questions of City Clerk at this time? Okay. If not, I will open it to public comment. Is there anybody who would like to speak on this item?
No, Madam Mayor.
All right, seeing no takers, I'll close public comment and bring it back to council for consideration of a motion. And since he is my appointee, I will make the motion to appoint.
I want to make some comments, please.
Okay, I'm going to make my motion, and then you
Okay.
can make your comments. And there may or may not be a second. But I'm going to make a motion to appoint Jeremy Rivera to the Park and Recreation Advisory Committee. And,
I'll second.
right, so there's a motion and second. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, I just want to say, I'd like to see the processes for all our appointments come under, like cities where they're concurrent with the terms of council members. And I'm just going to say that I'm going to support this because I'm going to support that this is your appointment, and this is going to be, based on how you vetted the person and your judgment. So, okay.
Okay, so I believe, based on what you're saying in the discussion that we had, that we do expect this to come back for clarification and for a discussion for the council to make sure that we have the way that these terms are stated.
Well, Mayor, I want to make it very clear. the way it's currently written is the way you adopted it.
Right, but it doesn't say anything about terms in there.
Well, what it does say, it says that the person will be there until there is a person appointed to replace them. But here's the thing, Mayor Pro Tem said she'd like us to come back, review all of them. And although this is the current policy, the council can at any point in time change this. And so I have a note here to bring back the processes to make sure that we can align this the way you guys want it. But the current policy, the way it is today, is exactly the way you guys adopted it. And so, and we'll bring this back as,
And so we were unclear when we adopted.
yeah. And so what we'll do is we'll make sure that we get it right this next time.
All right, thank you. Are there any further comments? All right, so there's a motion and a second. Please vote.
Motion passes unanimously with council members Henderson, Hussey, and Wilson voting yes, Mayor Pro Tem Robles voting yes, and Mayor McNamara voting yes.
All right, thank you. And congratulations, Mr. Rivera. We expect great things of you on this committee. All right, we'll move to our public comment session, and this is the opportunity for members of the public to comment on any items not appearing on the regular agenda. Because of restrictions contained in California law, the City Council may not discuss, act on, or may not act on any item not on the agenda, but may briefly respond to statements made or ask a question for clarification. A brief response may be requested of staff, and questions raised during public comments may be addressed, or a matter may be agendized for a future meeting. Do we have requests to speak at this time?
We do have Bobby Forbes.
Bobby Forbes, 11850 Burns Avenue. The new code enforcement officer is giving a lot of tickets for tumbleweeds in the community. I think she needs to cite you, because there's an awful lot of city properties that have huge tumbleweeds on them right now. And I think that needs to be addressed, because I've taken care of all mine. And so I'm sure the people that have received citations, I have too, because we had to have them done by last week. But I note as I'm driving through the community, they are everywhere. And so are as the streets, mostly Pico area, where the water runs down, lots and lots of green by the canal, the count house full of weeds, the properties on Barton Road. I'm not trying to embarrass anybody here, but I don't know if I put it on a see-click fix if anybody's going to notice quick enough. They're an issue, and they should be addressed as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Forbes. Thank you. Mr. Jeff Allen.
Jeff Allen, Brentwood Street. Thank you, Madam Mayor and City Council. So what I want to speak on just really quick on during the public comment time has to do with something that is not directly on the agenda. But I will tell you that as I think about it, as an appointed official, I would not want to be beholden to a single one of you individuals. I think that it's important for commission members to be able to retain a portion of independence and the ability to be able to speak freely without risk or fear. And that's why I think that I'm much more comfortable when the entire council selects a commission or committee member themselves. And that way, you can just consider it like she said earlier, you have five instead of one. If referring to the Planning Commission, for example. So thanks a lot.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. All right, that concludes our public comment portion. So I will close public comment and bring it back to council for their communications. We'll start with Councilmember Ken Henderson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. No comments at this time.
Thank you. Councilmember Bill Hussey.
Yeah, the only comment I have is, we all know today's the memorial for 9/11, and we all reflect back what we were doing that day when we got the tragic news, and, my reflection was at a federal prison. But who had known that we're still be at war 17 years later. And my thoughts and prayers are still for military men and women who are fighting that war, and for our first responders, and for the families today, the reflections of them who lost loved ones during that tragic day, and the first responders who went in harm's way while everybody was running trying to save them. So just my prayers are for this nation, and prayers are for the family members, and hopefully this war will be over one day and we can all live together in peace. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Hussey. Councilmember Doug Wilson.
Nothing at this time. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Robles.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I attended the September meeting of the Omtrans Board of Directors, and I'm going to go quickly through a couple of important things that you can go onto the site, or maybe it'll be something that's going to be linked to ours. One of the items that I wanted to report on was the Management Plan Strategic Initiatives report back. And number one was operating cost efficiencies, reduction of fuel costs by switching from LNG to CNG. The cost savings was $900,000. There was credits back of $1.5 million for a total savings of $2.4 million. And 56% of the paratransit buses have transitioned to the new fuel. The initiative number 2 was special transit services. 2 special transit partners have been announced: City of Chino Mobility Program, Loma Linda Adult Daycare, Health Daycare Transportation Program. And initiative 3, safety and security. They're having monthly meetings with cities. There's harassment bus cards, safety ads and campaigns, active shooter drills and all that. Rebuilding the ridership. There's a new service for Ontario Airport. Partnerships, Amazon Tripper Service, Auto Club Speedway, amenities, premium shelters, solar lights for stops, and new TSA approved trash cans, because there's issues if you can't see through there, there's potential for bombs. Strategic 5, and I'm really pleased about this one: technology optimization, mobile fare validation, paratransit VoIP, UHF radio extender, short-tail upgrade, business process improvement, single sign for all buses, virtual private network, scope of work for plant management, enterprise asset management. Strategic 6, passenger rail. I think I can make this shorter by saying SBCTA owns the track and is providing the funding. Omtrans is going to be the operator. So in preparation for that, a director of rail was hired in June of 2017. It's a woman. Application for ID code for aerial service is complete. There is a request for proposals, and the release date's going to be in fiscal year 19. There's a 3-party operations and maintenance agreement, and that's scheduled. We approved it at this last meeting. We're looking at our insurance consultant because we have issues where we even have Metrolink involved, so that it's quite a complex issue. Lastly, employee advancement. There's a leadership development academy. There's a director track, manager track, e-recruitment system, faster application process. They hired an HR specialist. We have a difficult time hanging on to coach operators. And so there's an interdepartmental group working to evaluate the coach operator hiring process. And with that, I would like to ask that we adjourn in memory of Cora Hidalgo Holland. She was San Bernardino native. She was a friend to many of the Grand Terrace residents that grew up in San Bernardino. She's one of her children from her first relationship is my son-in-law's cousin. And she was coming home from the Boston area to take care of her mother's needs because her mother was aging. And she passed away in the first flight to hit the World Trade Center. And I just want to always remember her each time that September 11th passes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So SBA-CTA's board meeting was on September 5th. We met in closed session with our legal counsel to talk about existing and anticipated litigation. In open session, we received information on customer-based ride sharing and transit interconnectivity. This was a study that they did, and it's a 6-point action plan where they're looking to increase their strategies for getting information out to the public about better ways to ride public transportation, understanding that it's really simple to get in the car and go, but when you want to ride on a bus or a train, you have to plan accordingly, and a lot of times there's a lot of planning involved. So they're looking at different modern apps that can be used. They're looking at strategies for first mile and last mile and other aspects of rider support. We approved allocation of Senate Bill 1 local partnership program funds. We received a presentation on the Vision for Safety campaign. This was launched at the National Night Out on August 7th, and it's the third public engagement campaign that's linked to a countywide vision. And so if you go to the county's website, you can see they have a vision to read, and they have a vision to move, and they have a vision for safety. This particular campaign its aim is to bring people together to create safer neighborhoods, schools, workplaces in all of our cities, towns, and communities throughout the county. Community members are encouraged to join a neighborhood watch group, learn how to prepare for emergencies, and follow professional safety tips to keep them and their families safe. You can go to www.vision4safety.com for more information on this particular program. We also received a 2017 Community Indicators Report, and we approved a memorandum of understanding with the local government commission for the placement of a Civil Spark Fellow. So there was somebody that was coming in to do some work for Sandbag, but they didn't have a place for this person to sit. So they had an indemnity agreement with the Southern California Association of Governments, who shares an area of the same building, and this person that will be doing the work will be housed in an office in the SCAG portion of the building, yet they are providing this particular agreement to mitigate any risk that might come to SCAG if there is an issue with the employee. And so that's how government and government works together. Lastly, in the city of Grand Terrace, I have been looking at the intersection safety. I know we have a highway safety project that's going to be done on Mount Vernon, and I'm hoping that that addresses some of the issues with Mount Vernon and Barton Road. I think a number of us have been hearing that's a pretty dangerous intersection right now, and then Mount Vernon and Grand Terrace Road Canal also. Mr. French, just briefly, will that program address those two intersections?
Yes, good evening, Madam Mayor. Alan French, Public Works. Yes, his project that we're working on now, it enhances the safety features at those intersections that you mentioned.
Okay.
It will be some signing and striping and lighting to enhance safety there.
Thank you. The last one is Barton and Preston, and there have been a number of accidents, most recently a multi-car accident about 2 weeks ago, or a week and a half ago. And what I'm wondering, since I see a number of cars run that light, they run red lights when they're heading west and they run it when they're heading east. I know that it's difficult to see that there is a lighted intersection coming up, and I'm wondering if there is any way that we could look at the possibility of those flashing advance warning signs to alert drivers that there is a signal coming up. Hopefully that will get them to slow down. I don't know if it will, but is that something that could be looked at?
Yes, Madam Mayor, we could look at that segment of Barton Road. We are looking at it was a speed study that Councilman Wilson was recommending, but when I talked to the consultant, they were recommending the speed feedback signs seem to have better effect than the speed limit, so we're looking at that right now.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. And so that's the last thing I have. We will be adjourning in honor of Cora Hidalgo Holland, and I will announce that at the end of the meeting. We also will close in honor of all those who lost their lives on 9/11, 2001. So we will move on with our agenda. Item E is public hearings. Item F is unfinished business. We have none of either of those. We will move on to new business. Item number 9 is resident request to
Madam-
place.
I'm sorry, Madam Mayor, to interrupt. The city manager has a request concerning the new business.
I'm sorry, Mayor, I'd like to,
Mr. Duffy.
thank you. Mayor, I'd like to remove item number 9 from the agenda.
All right, so removed. We will move to item number 10, which is a housing successor agency item. And this is the implementation of homeless outreach program to connect homeless individuals with resources to help them transition from homelessness while supporting the quality of life of residents of Grand Terrace.
Thank you, Mayor. The recommendation by staff is the appropriation of $26,000 from the Low Mod Income Housing and Asset Fund to support 8 hours a week for about a month, about $2,600, to enter into a contract with San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department Homeless Outreach Proactive Enforcement, which is their HOPE program. And according to the 2018 point-in-time count, there has been an increase in homeless by about 13%. But even though the homelessness is increasing, resources and money devoted to combating homelessness is working. Programs like the county's San Bernardino's Sheriff's Department's Homeless Outreach Proactive Enforcement Program, the HOPE program, can be instrumental in reducing homelessness. The mission of HOPE is to balance proactive outreach with enforcement of the law. Its community policing philosophy links the homeless population with resources and service providers throughout the county. And the city has seen an increase in homeless or transient individuals over the last 6 months. And while residents call, including myself, call law enforcement when they spot homeless individuals, what I'm often told is it's not a crime to be homeless. The Sheriff's HOPE team, though, when you call them, they can devote the resources to actually giving the homeless individuals the resources they need in order to try to seek help. The Sheriff's HOPE team has trained our existing 40-hour cover officer to conduct community outreach. The cover duty officer will be dedicated to seeking out homeless and respond to complaints with the sole purpose of addressing the issue and providing resources to the homeless individuals. The Sheriff's Department is committed to conducting this pilot program from September 1st, 2018 to November 30th, 2018. Lieutenant Wolf is actually here to provide a quick PowerPoint presentation update of what the Sheriff's HOPE program looks like and how we can partner with the Sheriff's HOPE program to provide the services to the community and to the homeless individuals.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, members of the public. I'm Lieutenant Doug Wolf, and I oversee patrol operations for the City of Grand Terrace. One of the things that it was important for the sheriff for the last few years is looking for and working on the quality of life issues within our contract cities. This was brought to my attention by the city manager a couple of weeks ago. We sat down and came up with a plan. So again, as the city manager said, across the county, probably across the United States, there's an uptick in homeless within our communities. So part of this is coming up with a plan of having to deal with the homeless population in a very respectful way, trying to get them the help that they need. Part of this is we developed a quality of life plan to offer the homeless, to help the homeless, and also to educate the business owners. We passed out positive change, not spare change posters to the businesses throughout the city. When we contact the homeless, we offer assistance and provide one of those guides that I just handed out to you. Inside that guide, there is all types of ways that these homeless folks can find help. Placement, substance abuse, and several others. Our proactive homeless outreach project started on September 1st, as the city manager said. It's an 8-hour workday for that patrol guy. He works from 1 p.m. to 9 p.m. Mondays 1 week, Tuesday the second week, and Wednesday the third week. And then he goes back to Monday again. The reason why we did that is because during those days, there is only one deputy working in Grand Terrace during that time. The other days, there are two. And another thing that we did is that covered deputy that we currently have, Deputy Mike Schlegel, is the one we picked to do this. So during that day that he works that 8-hour day, he commits himself to working with this quality of life issue, this homeless project that we're working on. And then during his regular work week, of course, he is handling calls, taking care of the other things throughout the city, but he's also mindful of the objectives of this process and program. So again, consistency is what we wanted, so we chose him for that. Mike also received proactive homeless outreach training from our HOPE team. HOPE team actually came out and spent several hours with him, giving him resources, passing phone numbers, networking, making sure he had the tools to be successful. Our goal is to offer assistance to the homeless and actually make a difference with them. And then if that doesn't work, if they are violating the law, we will take appropriate action. Another thing that I've asked our Deputy Schlegel to do is to work very closely with code enforcement and the retail businesses throughout Grand Terrace. This is the handout or the poster that we gave to the businesses throughout the city, hopefully to discourage them to allow panhandling to occur in front of their storefronts. And then also direct people who do want to help the homeless, give them opportunities to give to a charity, which is this phone number, gives them a choice of charities for homeless folks. And then also to get a hold of the HOPE team, that's what the 211 leaves a message for the HOPE team and helps them direct their resources to make contact with these folks. So what has happened since September 1st? The total contact number at the bottom is specifically Deputy Schlegel and Deputy Paul Casas. Those are the numbers that they've kind of worked together. Deputy Paul Casas works day shift and kind of helping Deputy Schlegel with this program. So total contacts of homeless contacts have been 10 since September 1st. 3 of those 10, they were able to get them assistance, and it could have just been a ride to a family member's house or to a motel or wherever. And then 5 of them were arrested for various charges, warrants, possession of drugs, drug paraphernalia, and so forth. And then also 2 of them were identifying 2 substantial homeless encampments, which then our Deputy Schlegel worked closely with code enforcement to help mitigate that problem. So far it's been pretty successful in just a very short time. Any questions?
Thank you, Lieutenant Wolf. Other questions at this time? Let's see, we are Board Member Hussey.
Thank you, Lieutenant Wolf, for bringing this to our attention. One, I like that we're getting an extra deputy. So I'm sure he'll be there for backup also, not just take care of the homeless.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so that's a big positive. And it's kind of sad that the cities are left with the burden to take care of this when it's like you said, it's a nationwide problem, a state issue, and then our cities have to take care of it. And I know we're counting pennies as it is, but it's something that needs to be addressed. And I've been to the League of Cities with this homeless, with the HOPE in Loma Linda, And like I said earlier, one of the big things that's coming up is people being homeless in my age at 54 because of the parents do the reverse mortgage because their son or daughter's been in trouble the whole time. They're paying for lawyers, and the parents pass away, and then the son and daughters have nowhere to stay, but they stay in the community that they feel safe at. So I've been kind of seeing some of that. But the thing is, when we're helping them, it's only going to be as good as the help that they want. And I know the ACLU sued, I think it was in the 80s when the homeless were committed. But if you have a homeless person that's causing seriously bodily harm, how long, and you guys are called out, protect himself and the community, I mean, how long will they stay, like if they went to, I think Arrowhead Regional, is that where they end up, or?
Well, they usually put them in for a 72-hour hold.
So it's 72 hours, and then they come back, but I know it's a long fight. I wouldn't say fight, but try to help them. It's an uphill battle, but is the county also going to do anything to help the cities subsidize these type of programs, or they're just going to leave it up to the city since we're contract through it, and this is a bigger problem, and it's county-wide. Have they had anything in the works to help cities like this?
There might be state grants that are out there, but no, the county isn't doing anything. This is just something that we feel that it's important to the city manager and what's going on out there to the public, and also reach out to these folks who do need help.
Okay. Because, I talked to Assemblymember Reyes on 3 issues already. What would you like the state to help? What could help our deputies with this problem? If I bring a question to her, I mean, what would you guys need with the state resources?
Well, I'm not quite sure if this problem is big enough that we're talking about right here that really warrants, this, to me, the 8 hours a week is not that significant for dealing with a problem. It could be much worse. So I don't think that that would be necessary.
So not at this present time, then?
Not doing this project.
Okay. On the arrest, the 5 that were arrested, did they have local ties with this area, or were they just drifters? Do you know?
There are 2 of them that are known that actually do have resident addresses here, and they do, their deal is to go panhandle during the day, and then they go home in Grand Terrace.
Well, thank you, and like I said, I'm glad we have at least an extra deputy for this too,
Yep.
taking care of our guys.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, Board Member Hussey. Board Member Wilson.
I think you're absolutely correct, and I really applaud the efforts, because it's a slippery slope, and to be able to be the people that are basically at that last quarter resort. I know that 44,000 people are on assistance in the county of San Bernardino. And in that, and I'm sure it changes day to day, but in the long run, it is amazing to me that we have education programs and so on that are fully funded, and yet the workers who are trying to basically convey the people through the pipeline are just having a heck of a time trying to get interest in it. So that's kind of where the mindset is. Unfortunately, it has a lot to do, and I've said this before, with the breakup of the families. Things just start to kind of disintegrate. And, abuse or, alcohol abuse problems, drug abuse problems just make it a little bit worse, and then you get them in jail, and they learn how to be real miscreants, and it becomes, all the way down to the tail end where you're just barely catching them before they go across the freeway. Mm-hmm. So I really appreciate your efforts on it, and I think the more that we can be aware that there are opportunities to try to educate and try to help our brothers and sisters out there that are struggling, and make them aware of it and try to maybe hand carry them. Sometimes it seems, painful, but in the long run, you know, we get a lot of blessings for it, so really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Wilson. Board Member Henderson.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. I want to echo Board Member Wilson's comments and compliment the city manager and Lieutenant Wolf on this program. Director Molina and I attended a session at the City-County Conference where Assistant Sheriff Shannon Dykes gave what I thought was a riveting presentation on Take Back Our Communities and the coalitions that have been established with other communities in Southern California. More importantly, in all of the presentations, even the presentations involving our economic prospects and economic opportunity, homelessness had kind of pushed itself to the fore. We went to session after session where the topic might have been something different, but homelessness became a critical subtopic during the course of that discussion. We received presentations from the chief of several Assembly and Senate committees in Sacramento, and he said the wake-up call for him was when he was contacted by a supervisor from Siskiyou County. I believe Siskiyou is one of the counties, maybe the only county that doesn't have any cities in this state, and in Yolo County. And both of them wanted to talk about their homeless problem. And so we kind of sort of thought homelessness went away for maybe a decade or so, but it is back to the forefront for all the right or wrong reasons, depending on your perspective. So I want to compliment the city manager and Lieutenant Wolf and Sheriff John McMahon for the HOPE program, because it's a region-wide issue, and having law enforcement at the forefront taking a proactive position on this is something that is sorely needed. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Board Member Henderson. Any further questions at this time? All right, seeing none, I will ask if there are any requests to speak on this item. Thank you, Lieutenant Wolf.
Thank you.
All right, first speaker is Jeff Allen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, City Council, for this opportunity. Jeff Allen, Brentwood Street, Grand Terrace. Regarding this HOPE issue, on packet page 81 in the first paragraph, it says the city's seen an increase in the homeless or transient individuals over the past 6 months, and by your own statistics, I'm looking at these three charts that are in the packet. It shows that they've gone from, on any given week, 2 to reported 4. So that's an average of 2.5, and that's $26,000 to go check out 2.5 people. $26,000, that's $100,000 a year. And it concerns me since we just recently tried to implement, a tax increase on the citizens. So the other question I had is that it's stated also in the packet that the director of the Housing Successor Agency, you wanted to authorize the executive director to enter into these agreements, but he or she's only authorized at $10,000 or less, according to what it says in your statement, in your packet. But this is a $26,000 contract. So I'm just kind of curious about how that's going to be handled. And, I've been involved in homeless veteran counts over the years because I'm the chairman of the San Board of Supervisors Veterans Advisory Committee, and I have been since 2009. And so our committee members will go out with the VA employees, the county VA employees. Over the years, we've gone out once a year, done the typical census count, looked for the homeless veterans and counted them up. And several years ago, the Board of Supervisors, in conjunction with the VA, started a project to eradicate the homeless veteran population in San Bernardino County, and it was successful in 2017. By the end of the year 2017, there were no more recorded homeless veterans in San Bernardino County. I'd encourage the Sheriff's Department to check with the director of the county VA on how they accomplished that. I did notice in the packet that the VA is not listed as one of the agencies that's contacted when the homeless are found. And I mean, we know veterans are out there. At least that's what they say. So those are the issues I wanted to bring up on this subject. Thank you very much for your time and listening to me.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Mr. City Attorney, did you want to address the authorization question?
Sure, Madam Mayor, members of the council. It is true that the city manager has up to authority of $10,000 to approve contracts that he doesn't have to bring to the council. And that was authorized by the council by ordinance. He has brought this to the council, so the council's making the decision and just authorizing him to sign it on behalf of the council.
Thank you, Mr. City Attorney. And then as far as the appropriation of $26,000, that is one time, that's not per quarter, correct?
That is one time. And so what would happen is that once the sheriff comes back with a report to the council on what's happened over the last 3 months, then I will come back and ask the council to approve a contract for a longer period of time.
Okay. All right. Can I come back after public comment? I'm still in public comment. I was just having him clarify the public comment, so my apologies for the confusion. All right, so our next speaker is Jeremy Rivera.
I'm a little out of order because I would have made public comment if I would have known that item 9 was going to be vetoed by the city manager. But I just want to put the bug in the ear that we still need to talk about the fire situation that's going on in our city. That's something that I wanted to place on the agenda a month ago when the city manager was taking his daughter to school. So maybe we can try to get that on the agenda. I only can request. I've done that, and now it was taken off for discussion again tonight. Also, to add another deputy to the city, that's still up in the air. Mayor Pro Tem mentioned a couple months ago to also have like a code of conduct for city council members. I'd like to have a discussion on that. I just think there's some work that we need to do as a community and a city council together, and we talk about it at the city council meetings, but then I never see it placed on the agenda. So it seems like we're just operating on Mr. Duffy's agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Rivera. Did you have comments on item number 10?
Item number 10, yes, I did. Just a couple things real quick is from what I see, and I don't get up very early, I'm not a morning person, but it seems like our homeless population is in the very early morning of the city time. Usually at daybreak, it seems that there's homeless by the old Stater Brothers, the donut shop, Bank of America, those areas. And so if we have a deputy from 1 to 9, and I think deputies are switching shifts at 7 a.m. if I'm correct or not, by Lieutenant Wolf, I think they work 7 to 7. So that's really a hard time in the mornings, but I didn't know maybe if we can stagger one of those days so the deputy could be out there in the morning or whatnot, but I know that's probably really hard on his schedule to keep someone consistent. So it's a scheduling nightmare, and I understand that. And then just the cost of this is, what is the hourly cost of this versus a regular deputy? It seems like this is a little bit cheaper than a regular deputy if we went all year. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Rivera. And that was my last request to speak, so I will close public comment and bring it back. I believe that Vice Chair Robles had a comment that she would like to make, and then Board Member Henderson.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, there's been some times where the city manager talks about his authority to enter into agreements that are less to 10,000. But there's a difference between appropriation. You have to have appropriation authority before you can spend any money. So so he's asking for 26,000 in appropriation authority, and he's asking to exercise to use 7,200 of that for a pilot program. It's not going to be longer than September 1st to November 30th, and then they're going to come back to us December 2018. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Board Member Henderson.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. I just wanted to indicate to the council and the community at large that the funds for this program come from redevelopment, low to moderate income housing funds. Can only be used to improve and/or increase the supply of housing, affordable housing, to eligible households. It can't be used for sheriff's contract. It can't be used for general operations, general fund operations. It can only be used for those specific purposes. And as the city manager pointed out in the staff report, even the use of low-mod funds for the HOPE program took special legislation, and that legislation is attached to the affected agenda item. So I don't want the community to misunderstand and to think that we're spending funds on homelessness when we could actually spend it on a new sheriff's deputy, because that's not the case. It's important that everyone realize and understand that the strictures that pertain to the low moderate income housing fund have been in place for many, many years and succeed the dissolution of redevelopment agencies, including the former Grand Terrace Redevelopment Agency. Thank you, Madam Chairperson.
Thank you. All right, what would we like to do with this item?
I move the recommendation to appropriate $26,000 from the Low Moderate Income Housing Asset Fund to support 8 hours a week, $2,600 per month of law enforcement services for homeless outreach, and 2, authorize the Executive Director of the Housing Successor Agency to enter into contract with the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department's Homeless Outreach Proactive Enforcement Program to provide homeless outreach services.
All right, motion by Vice Chair Robles, second by Board Member Hussey. Please vote.
Motion passes unanimously with Board Members Henderson, Hussey, and Wilson voting yes, Vice Chair Robles voting yes, Chair McNabo voting yes.
All right, thank you. So we will move to item 11, which is acknowledgement of transfer of $2,857,416 into the city's general fund from the 2011 A and B tax allocation bonds. Mr. City Manager Harold Duffy.
Thank you, Mayor. This report is providing the council with a brief history of where we are with the use of redevelopment bond proceeds. And it also provides at the end of the report a list of potential projects that through the course of the last year, during the council meetings, members of the council have indicated, or a staff report came forward about a particular item, and the council members indicated that they would like to see these items come back. So what staff has done is first of all, any use of the bond proceeds must be used for the purpose in which they were issued and also be consistent with the redevelopment plan. And so usually that consists of elimination of blight and economic development. So I'll try to go through this as quickly as possible. The Department of Finance is authorized through SB 107 to allow the city to use 15% of its 2011 A and B tax allocation bonds. During the last several months, the successor agency has developed a review and sought approval from the Department of Finance for the following documents. The city submitted a last and final Department of Finance, ROPS, last and final, and then also submitted a bond expenditure agreement between the city and the redevelopment agency. History. In February 2012, the Redevelopment Disillusionment Act, AB X-126, became effective and suspended the agency's authority to spend its 2011 tax allocation bond proceeds issued in June 2011. And that number is about $20 million in which the city had available to execute its redevelopment plan. But once the Disillusionment Act started, the city could no longer use those bonds or commit to any future obligations. In May 2013, the successor agency received its finding of completion, a certificate of completion, certain disillusionment-related audits and returning certain funds to the taxing entities. In September 2015, Senate Bill SB 107 became effective, including provisions under Section 34191.4 to remove the 2011 bond spending restrictions. If a successor agency has received from the DOF a finding of completion, which the city had, the successor agency may spend 5% of its 2011 bond proceeds. So during that time, the city was successful in terms of getting its completion, and the city came back and the council approved a list of projects. The city received about $289,000, which the Department of Finance calculated as 5% of the bond proceeds. The use of that $289,000 was $50,000 to the city's dog park. Playground resurfacing at the child care facility was $26,826. And these are actual costs. So these are things that you actually spent and the projects were completed. Traffic signal lighting, $23,200. That's the LED lights at all the intersections throughout the city, the lit intersections throughout the city. Tree replacement program of $15,000. And then the playground resurfacing at Richard Rollins Park. That was $114,450. And then we had a sidewalk repair of $29,106, leaving a balance of $30,000. And I do want to just jump real quickly on this slide just to indicate. So the use of the $30,000, the balance of $30,000 was carried over in addition to when the council received authorization for the 1.9, the 15%, which now Ms. Fortune will jump in and take us through the process in which we went through to secure the 15% of bond proceeds. Let me go back one, Ms. Fortune.
From here? Okay. So additional legislation stated that any successor agency meeting the requirements may submit a last and final ROPS. So if the agency can recall, in December 2017, after we submitted it to the Department of Finance, they came back with suggestions. At the time, we felt that this was something we needed to submit to the board, to the successor agency board, and to the oversight board for approval. And what they were saying, the main thing was they wanted to use bond proceeds to pay for the debt service. They had a little reduction in trustee fees and management fees. When we brought that before the board in February of 2018, the successor agency board, and also approved by the oversight board, agreed to incorporate the Department of Finance recommendations. So agency staff revised that last and final ROPS and submitted it to the Department of Finance for approval. And again, we were requesting that 1.9 million. In May, we had several phone conferences with the Department of Finance. When they did the distribution using the bond proceeds for the last and final ROPS, we had excess bond proceeds left after paying off all the debt service requirements. This was for the B. If you are familiar with our bond proceeds, we had two issues, A and B. So there were extra 800 and change in the 2011 B proceeds. So the discussions were, what can it be used for? Can we use it to pay off A? Can we give it to, make it as part of the bond proceeds to give to the general fund? Or can we distribute it to the taxing entities? We asked our legal counsel to make an opinion, and we had several conferences with the Department of Finance. After the discussions we've had, and we told them what the options are, when we received our determination letter, the Department of Finance decided to give us that extra money. So instead of receiving 1.9 million, the Department of Finance gave us 2.8 million to use in excess bond proceeds. However, based on SB 107, based on when we issued these bonds, the maximum we can spend is 20%, and that is 1.9 million. So staff is recommending, of the excess 870,000, to either authorize the general fund to use the amount for projects after we receive confirmation whether we can use the bonds or not, authorize us to use it for additional projects, or return the excess to the agency for distribution to the taxing entities. And as you know, the general fund will get approximately 20% of that 870,000, or return the excess to the agency to pay the debt service on the 2011 A bonds. And again, as soon as we get clarification, we will come back to the successor agency board to inform you of that.
So, Mayor, as Ms. Fortune indicated, what staff's recommendation is for the overpayment is we're going to take it and we're going to set it aside in a separate fund. And then we will go through conversations with the Department of Finance. We will hold it. We will wait for state audits. But our recommendation is that it not be used, because if you use it, and they can, by statute, turn around later and say, oops, we made a mistake and we want the money back. And so what our goal is to hold the money in a separate fund, work with the Department of Finance, go through the normal audits of our accounts, and hold the money until either they ask for it to come back, or that we are assured that if the council does spend those proceeds, that there's not going to be some letter from the Department of Finance indicating we need to pay that back. And so that's sort of where we are now with the current status. What we really wanted to do was to make sure that you gave us the authorization to do the last and final ROPS, to request the $1.9 million. We, as Ms. Fortune said, we received the 2.8, so we wanted to come back and give the council an update. But we do want to then now talk to you about potential use of the 1.9 million that we did receive, based on a list of activities that we've heard the council reference throughout the year. Now, we are not requesting the council take any action on any item tonight of this list. We wanted to bring the list forward to the council and then get some feedback from the council, and if we're missing something, to come back with a more comprehensive list. And so if the council would like me to go through the list of items, I can move quickly,
No.
or we can come back another.
No.
Okay.
I think we need to discuss this agenda report. There's nothing in here about,
Mayor Pro Tem, did
Thank
you
you.
have a question?
why is this agenda report misstating what we actually did? And why does it not have in here that we're going to get to the general fund $174,000?
I beg your pardon?
You can read it. You can show me. If I'm not seeing 174,000 in here coming to the general fund.
Mayor Pro Tem, that will only occur if we get confirmation on what can be done to the excess 870,000.
Okay, so then why isn't there anything here about us defeasing bonds?
The intent of the staff report was only to talk about the excess bond expenditure agreement and the use of those funds. We will be coming back with a different staff report to talk about.
Well, I'm just going to say I'm not happy about this. This is part what I think of staff maneuvering, and I don't think we're getting the full picture. I don't think it's global enough. I think we're getting it piecemeal, and then we're told later on, like example of how we do appointments. We're asking maybe to change and modify something, and we're told, oh, well, this is what you approved. This is what you approved. So, you know, I'm just a little bit concerned about, I think there's a conflict between what staff wants and what possibly the five of us should be contemplating with having the full picture, and I don't see it here today. And I'll look for some help from the rest of you on this.
Councilmember Wilson.
Correct me if I'm wrong, are we just not setting up the accounting structure for this? In essence, what we're saying is if these numbers all play, and if there isn't some kind of a question down the line that the 879.70 is supposed to be devoted to some kind of a payback or some kind of baloney junk that we get from the people that authorized it to begin with, that we will put it in two different pews, and the first pew would be the amount of money that we had planned to do to satisfy the redevelopment plan and bond indenture. The other one would be in a restricted account, period, that's it. We're not talking about what we're spending here or anything, we're just saying that the definitions under those two amounts of money are separate. And the $1,986,466 is set up so that we don't step on our plan like has been done in the past. You know, we're trying to segregate the numbers and segregate the revenues, just like we should do in an RDA sort of circumstance. And these funds for the 1,986,466 are severely restricted. And it took a huge thing that took place over several years, and the governor's, you know, doing a bunch of baloney legislation to bring that to light. Now we are being proactive, and we're setting up the superstructure accounting-wise, but we're not saying, hey, we're just going to go out there and spend it on nothing. We're just saying all we're doing is setting up the superstructure. Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem, do you
Yeah.
have another question?
That's not, my concern. My concern is when I get an agenda report, I don't want to come to the meeting and get something else, because I have time to study the issue. And when, and this wasn't in the agenda report.
Mayor Pro Tem, my understanding was we weren't deciding on anything tonight. They were presenting us with what they had heard from us in the past, and that they would come back with another item where we can give other suggestions for ways that we
I
want to spend
understand
that.
That's not my issue here.
It would be nice to have the PowerPoint presentation as part of the staff report. Is that your, part of your point? Because I would like to have that too.
Yeah, and also, I want the full picture in an agenda report. And I don't see anything here about defeasing the bonds. The 289,000, I was kind of puzzled. What do you mean you came back to us? You know, that was a while ago, and we haven't had that discussion for a long time. And then we were going to defease the bonds, and that was going to trigger some other things. Now I'm hearing here we were looking at paying bonds from 1B to A and all this other stuff. This is news to me.
So, Mayor Pro Tem, if I may.
Mr. Duffy?
Yes. So what we recommended, well, first of all, let me just start off at this point. When we last left the council, we had authorization to take the recommendations to the Department of Finance, and we were going to get $1.9 million. Okay? We, along with our city attorney, worked with the Department of Finance, and we were surprised that we received $2.8 million. And so what I made sure that we did was come back to the council and say, I don't know if we can keep this extra $870,000. That's what the report is today. What you're seeing is some other options that you might have in terms of if you give the money back. The state might decide, remember, one of the recommendations that our city attorney said is that we told the Department of Finance this, that we believe the 20% ends at this number, and they ignored that comment and they brought this back. So we asked the city attorney, what could possibly happen to this extra $870,000? And so that's what you see before you today is what those potential options are. Now, Mayor Pro Tem has mentioned in the past about us coming back and defeasing the bonds, and that is a separate discussion altogether that we are going to have.
We took action.
You took action, and you wanted us to come back to you with multiple items regarding,
Well, I'm going to say this is very, as far as your relationship with me and staff's relationship with me, I'm not satisfied with this. I don't find it very trusting in our relationship on how this should be handled.
oh, I'm sorry to hear that. That was not my intent at all in bringing this back to you. My overall goal was to make sure that the mistakes of the past weren't repeated when extra money came in. And that was the emphasis that I wanted to make a point in bringing this item back to you. So I'm sorry that you feel otherwise to that.
Mr. City Manager, from your opinion, what direction were you given by the council with regard to the bond proceeds, not the portion that we're able to spend, but the other portion?
So, yes, Ms. Fortune,
May I, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council, when we gave an update in February, if you all recall, there were 3 steps we had to do. One was create that expenditure agreement between the successor agency and the general fund, which you approved. Second, submit that last and final to the Department of Finance, defeasing the bonds. And after that was approved and the money's transferred, third step was to refund the bonds as recommended by Mayor Pro Tem. What we're doing was step-by-step process because we couldn't do it all at once. Tonight's report was only for the excess bond expenditure. As he said, we're going to come back and to talk about the defeasement.
And I'll just end with this.
Mayor Pro Tem.
When I see, like for the Board of Supervisors background, we came to you on these dates, blah, blah, blah. Today's thing is to come and do this. We're going to come back to you, okay? And I'd like to see if we're going to be talking about, how the overpayment's going to end up with the general fund. I want to see it in the agenda report because the public deserves to know that. When I'm studying this, I deserve to know that. And I'm ready to let this issue end as far as my concerns for today.
Thank you. Any comments or any questions of staff at this time? All right, seeing none, I'll open to public comment. Thank you. Jeffrey Allen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Jeff Allen.
Mr. Allen, I was going by how you filled out your card.
Thank
My
you.
apologies.
I'm accommodating Jeffrey. So it's Jeff Allen on Brentwood Street, and I'm not trying to be a gadfly, but there were some important issues on the agenda tonight, and so I just wanted to address this last one, item 11. I noticed in some of these recommendations, and I'm encouraged to know that you're going to come back with others because I was a little bit confused and had some questions about some of them. First of all, I believe that, when it comes to investing any of our funds, our kids are going to provide the biggest bang for the buck. They're going to give us the biggest return on our investment. So we should always consider them in our choices that we make. But I'm wondering about, are we really wanting to, are we going to spend $25,000 to do a survey of the floodplain, 40-acre floodplain? I mean, are we really going to build something in the floodplain? And then, $78,000 for mobile bleachers? Is that something for perhaps ribbon cutting ceremonies? I mean, who's really going to use those? So that's the only reason I got up here was I just wanted to make sure that, when we do have those funds that, we spend them wisely because we're always being told about how, tight our budget is, so much so that we couldn't even hire an extra cop without having to institute a tax increase that we were told. So, we can be more prudent with our money and spend it on what the residents want. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Okay, I'm going to close public comment and come back to council for the perhaps receiving of this item? Mr. City Attorney, do we need a motion to receive?
I'd recommend it.
All right.
Madam Mayor, make a motion to receive the list of potential projects eligible to fund with proceeds from the 2011 A and B tax allocation bonds and direct staff to return to council on September 25th with additional eligible projects as recommended by members of council.
Madam Mayor, I second Councilmember Wilson's motion with the understanding that the process identified by Assistant City Manager Fortune is the basis by which I am seconding the motion and prepared to vote in support of it.
All right. So a motion by Councilmember Wilson, a second by Councilmember Henderson. Please vote.
Motion passes unanimously with Council Members Henderson, Hussey, and Wilson voting yes, Mayor Pro Tem Robles voting yes, and Mayor McNabo voting yes.
Thank you. City Manager Communications?
Yes, and Mayor,
Excuse me, I just wanted to clarify.
Mayor
that
Pro Tem.
These are redevelopment agency funds. They cannot be spent on law enforcement.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Mr. City Manager?
yes, Mayor and Council. I just wanted to make a quick comment to remind the council that we have tentatively scheduled for September 25th, 2018, an item to come back to the council for a fire department annexation and parcel tax discussion. And that was based on the direction that I received from the council to do that. In addition to that, I just wanted to remind the council that as part of our budget discussion, I did say that I would be coming back to the council with a mid-year review, and part of that mid-year review, we would be looking at if there were any additional funds to look and move toward law enforcement. We would have the discussion at the time. And so those are my only two items that I had for the council.
Thank you. All right, we will move to recess. We will be recessing to closed session. And this is a city council and city council as a housing successor agency item. It's conference with real proper negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.8. The property is a portion of APN 1167-231-01 and -02. Also 1167-311-01. City negotiators G. Harold Duffy, City Manager. Negotiating parties Evergreen Devco, Inc., a California corporation. And under negotiation is price and term of payment. The property for the Housing Successor Agency is a portion of APN 167-231-01 and -02. Also 1167-311-01. And the Housing Successor Agency negotiator is G. Harold Duffy, Executive Director. Negotiating parties, Evergreen Devco, Inc., a California corporation. And under negotiation is price and terms of payment. So for those of you that will not be with us when we come back from our closed session, I just want to remind you to keep in your thoughts Cora Hildago Holland, resident of Boston, but former resident of San Bernardino, who died on the first flight to hit the World Trade Center on 9/11/2001, and also keep in your thoughts all those others and the heroes who have lost their lives on this same day, 2001. And also, our next regular city council meeting will be held on Tuesday, September 25th, 2018 at 6 p.m. right here. Agenda item requests must be submitted in writing to the city clerk's office no later than 14 calendar days preceding the meeting. So at this time, we are in recess. It's not. See, there's that Mr. Duffy voice. Thank you. All right, we will reconvene to open session. The council met in closed session with in conference with real property negotiators pursuant to Government Code 54956.8. The property was a portion of APN 167-231-01 and -02, also 167-311-01. City negotiator, G. Harold Duffy, city manager. Negotiating parties, Evergreen Devco, Inc., a California corporation. Under negotiation was price and terms of payment. Also, the property, a portion of APN 1167-231-01 and -02, also 1167-311-01, and that's the Housing Successor Agency negotiator, G. Harold Duffy, executive director. Negotiating parties, Evergreen Devco, Inc., California corporation, and under negotiation was price and terms of payment. The council gave direction to staff. There are no reportable actions. So at this time, we will adjourn to our next regular city council meeting, closing in honor of Cora Hidalgo Holland, resident of Boston, but former resident of San Bernardino, who died on the first flight that hit the World Trade Center on September 11, 2001, and also all those who lost their lives on that same day. Our next regular council meeting will be held Tuesday, September 25th, 2018 at 6 p.m. Agenda item requests must be submitted in writing to the city clerk's office no later than 14 calendar days preceding this meeting. We are adjourned.